Yo, what up? It's me, Bamboo Shack, also known as Coral Snorter 29 in this case. Now, during the last video, I took it upon myself to gaslight you and spread misinformation about the story. Why? So I don't spoil anything. Now, however, I'm going to spoil everything. I gaslighted you and spread misinformation on purpose last time, but now I need you to understand that because of how From Software tells their stories, where stuff is left for interpretation by the player, that I might be led to misinform you again, due to my own ignorance, at least as far as the story is considered. Now, if you're somebody that watched 20 lore videos to got the context for this, please do correct me in the comments about everything that I'm wrong. I'm going to start with the thick plot, the narrative experience, and I'll put the end of this section in the description, in case you haven't beaten the story yet. Spoilers ahead. I think I have snorted enough red dust to talk about story, maybe. To get talking about the story, first we need to know why we are on Rubicon. We are there to get coral. What is coral? Coral is essentially four things. A sentient collection of entities which can be used as fuel to augment humans, to cause mutations inside humans, and as data conduit. Who wants coral? Corporations want it. And the government wants to keep the corporations from it. You, as an augmented human, are a product of a crazy lab experiment. You got made before Rubicon had the whole sand turning into glass incident, or as it's known,
They called it the Fires of Ibis.
I think. I am not sure if that's the origin of your character though, but from what I have gleaned, that seems to be the case. What I am sure of is that humanity doesn't mesh well with another sentient being entering the chessboard for power and dominion, no matter how big the threat it poses is. So naturally, you can bet your left ass cheek that there is a faction that will resort to mass murder and, bear with me here, genocide to get rid of it. Yeah, I am sorry for this, it's just YouTube stuff so I don't get flagged for shit. That's all happening while the conflict between corporations and the newly settled government is raging together, with you in the middle of it. You are tasked to find a coral, which is conveniently going to lead you into the path of getting rid of the government and making the planet and its resources ripe for the taking. In the process of it, the end of this conflict, there's going to be three factions left. Overseers, Arquebus, and Rubicon Liberation Front. The Overseers are the bastards that plunged Rubicon into a fiery ending last time. This event is also known as the Fires of Ibis. Your handler, voter is one of them. Arquebus is the corporation that benefited the most from these conflicts. They basically got their benefit by salvaging government technology and using it to seize more power to win the corporation war against Balaam. Balaam and the government got wiped off the planet. This leads to the last faction tied to Rubicon itself, the Rubicon Liberation Front, which are basically rebels. The endings tied to the Overseer and the Rubicon Liberation Front. Who they don't tie to is they don't tie into the Arquebus Corporation because Arquebus wants you dead. It's not a very wise idea to work with someone, obviously, because you're going to end up. This will culminate in two endings being closely related to each other. Basically, the Rubicon Liberation Front and the Overseers, together with Arquebus in the middle. The Overseers will try to repeat the Fires of Ibis. The Arquebus will try to get more coral, or rather to get monopoly on the coral, and the Rubicon Liberation Front just doesn't want coral to be taken away. So Overseers are going to take the colony ship that brought first settlers to Rubicon into an installment that houses most of the coral. Now, I'm not entirely sure if Koro got there out of its own volition, or if contraption is controlling it to gather there. Koro is very flammable, and the Overseers will try to use the colony ship that brought the first settlers to Rubicon as a match, if you will, to cause a chain reaction that will repeat the fires of Ibis. The Rubicon Liberation Front will try to stop it, or rather, you will try to stop it. That leaves the third ending, which is called Alia Iecta Est. This translates to "the die is cast", or if you prefer another term, the road of no return. Why I'm talking about this is because each of them evoked a different feeling, and I will attempt to give you more context and describe those feelings to you about these endings. The first part of the game is just you building your reputation as an independent mercenary. Therefore, it's not the most interesting setting. This essentially slowly ramps up the pace of the story until the end of Chapter 4. After Chapter 4, or at the end of the last mission, the game will speed up the budding of the narrative by increasing its pace and finally pitting you and the various factions into a conflict of interest. First ending I got was quote unquote the bad ending. So how did the bad ending or the shitty ending make me feel? In this one you will fight your only friend in this world. You are someone that has been cerebrally modified to be controlled, which is a bit of a scary concept if you think about it. You are going to be fighting the voice in your head named Diary. Dang, bro. Boy, did this feel bad. I felt like a bastard the entire time I was fighting her, and this got emphasized even more with the line she said to me. Start quote, "You are a spark of war," end quote. That really drove that feel bad nail in and made me feel like even a bigger bastard. Anyway though, this ending reminds me a lot about the Dark Souls 3 ending where you kill the Firekeeper. I really don't know what makes me commit these atrocities in these games. I guess something is wrong with me. One can argue though that burning down the planet and the surrounding solar system sure looks pretty though. So it is what it is. And the second ending, Liberator of Rubicon. This one feels the most out of place, and mainly because AC6 is set in a bleak and hopeless world, which is always fueled by human conflict. The game spends so long dehumanizing my character and everyone around it that suddenly people acting like humans feels out of place. Or should I say that peace feels out of place. It's still a cool ending though, but yeah. And that leads us to the third ending. The third ending has to be the most fitting ending for ending your playthrough. Yes, I know I said ending 2 times. Because it signifies the road of no return. Just like Caesar crossing the river of Rubicon, you will be essentially embarking on the road of no return, which in this case means that you will be spreading coral into space. Coral for some reason multiplies very well in that surroundings, so you spread an unknown sentient energy source and data conduit that encourages mutations in humans throughout the stars. There is a certain finality to this, just as the name implies. The reason I'm talking about this is because the first two endings don't feel like they have an end in the ending. Because you don't get many details in classical From Software fashion, burning Rubicon with fires of Ibis in the first time took some time, but it still led to coral resurfacing. This leads me to believe that burning coral again in the fires of Raven ending is not going to change much. Basically, it's a cycle, just like linking the fire. Now, liberating Rubicon, on the other hand, is just that. You liberate it. Nothing is stopping the corporations and the government to come back again with stronger forces. And then what? You just liberate it again. Another cycle. See what I mean? The third one, on the other hand, adds finality. Everyone gets Coral now. There is no going back now. It adds that finality to it. It adds the end in the ending. Just like plunging the world in darkness in Dark Souls. Now, that's all I have to say about the endings, and there is certainly more I can add, but for the sake of keeping this short and mellow, I won't. Sadly, the third ending, or as I like to call it, the best ending, is stuck behind New Game Plus Plus. How do you get this? Well, I'll be putting a link in the description. I'm gonna need a small dramatic pause, because man, feelings are exhausting. Anyways, world building. Before every mission, you will have a briefing that gives you some information about the significance of your mission to you and to your employer. Here's a bonus question. What is From Software good at? If I had to say any one thing, I'd say environmental storytelling. And I don't know if I can pronounce that correctly because English is hard, but briefings and breathtaking vistas together with bleak and barren surroundings really set in that feel of you just being an inconsequential cog in the machine. This is a recurring theme throughout the game, which is further emphasized with a debriefing that will further dehumanize you upon mission completion. Together serves to set this depressive tone that nothing you do as an individual matters. And that's why each of the endings is tied to a faction, further impacted by NPCs are usually dismissive, especially corporations, and no amount of fame is going to make you be appreciated. The corporations are just after your piloting skills and after your guns. You are stuck in a bleak and a hopeless setting, almost depressive if you will. On to performance. Now I wanted to talk just about the graphics and forget performance exists, but I can't. Because no matter how many particle effects and other stuff is on the screen, I never dropped a single frame. Whether I was recording and streaming on Discord at the same time, not a single frame. Maybe the recording did drop one frame, but the game sure as fuck didn't. The game runs like someone put a remotely detonated firecracker in its ass crack. Fast and flawless. This is the best optimized game of this year, I think. These are my specs, by the way. It's nothing too crazy, but it should speak volumes about how the game runs. On to the gameplay. You can experiment till your heart is content in this title. After playing a full-blown speed-focused build for around 80% of my first playthrough, I wanted to have nothing to do with it anymore, because it got boring and I am bad at the game. New Game Plus and New Game Plus Plus, I eventually settled on two cookie cutter builds, if you will. These I used for the rest of my playthroughs, and they are relatively simple to use. Here they are in their fully broken glory. 2 Zimmermans and 2 stun needles, and 2 Gatlings and 2 stun needles. Now, you can replace stun needles if you still didn't unlock them with songbirds, but it's going to lack some of the stunning capabilities and some of the damage. I found these two builds to be the most brain-dead combination regarding PvE. These eliminated any modicum of finesse and requirements of me using the two of my brain cells. Essentially, these are the builds that I use as my solution to anything that the game can throw at me, abusing sheer aggression and damage to overwhelm any obstacle thrown at me. So how does the combat feel? Combat still feels fluid and amazing, and that I went out of my way to collect almost everything should be a testament to how good it is. The game made me play it. Yes, anyways. Now, graphics, I am not much of a graphics guy, and I will continue saying this in every video that I make. However, I am an art style kind of guy. I'm of a mind that what really makes games stay memorable, it's not their graphics, because you have Unreal Engine 5 games, and those don't really look that memorable for me. A fusion of graphics and art style. Now, obviously, is graphical detail there? Yes, it is. It is obviously not as detailed as other games, but what graphical detail may lack is overcompensated by the amazing art direction the game has. Look at the vistas. breathtaking stuff if you ask me. Sound. Now, from voice acting to in-game sound effects to the banger soundtrack, there is nothing I can say that will do it a justice. I'm just not eloquent enough to address this. Now, in my video Is It Fun about this game, I kept trying to compare it with Sekiro, and I wasn't fully aware why at the time, but now I am. They both give you a puzzle in the form of a boss and various tools to solve that puzzle. Sometimes a big part of that puzzle is just getting good. Sometimes you can tweak your loadout to help you out. By no means is Armored Core 6 a necessarily hard game, which you can also argue about Sekiro too, but if you are stuck, you are usually using the wrong resources to solve your puzzle. The other reason for comparison is because the games are condensed. And the games are condensed experiences that are crafted to deliver you an experience of its advertised setting. So, in Sekiro, you are a shinobi. What do shinobi do? What are they known for? Killing samurai. You kill samurai in Sekiro. And you're a ninja. There you go. In Armored Core 6, you are a mech pilot and a combat engineer, and you will be using your metal creation against other people with metal creations. That's a win in my book, because the game set out to achieve that, and it achieved it splendidly. Small disclaimer, I didn't even know I wanted a mech game, but do you know who did? From Software. From Software, gosh darn did we created and scratched that itch. This is why I was comparing them. Now, I tremendously enjoyed Armored Core, and usually I don't go out of my way to do a new game plus on any title unless I am blown away. This title got its slimy, degenerate hands onto my attention span and didn't let go until I felt satisfied with the ending. From gameplay to spectacle to the soundtrack. Truly an immensely enjoyable experience that culminates with the climax of last ending, leaving me awed and satisfied after the game scratched that itch for engaging gameplay and narrative fulfillment. Like, I'm literally running out of words here. English is hard, okay? Obviously, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Can I recommend this game to people? I don't know. I usually feel very iffy when trying to recommend From Software titles to someone, and if I feel iffy, that means I shouldn't recommend this title to anyone. Basically, just look at the gameplay, look at stuff, and see if it's for you. In case you played through the game already, and you're just watching this video so I validate your opinion, did you enjoy this game as much as I did? Let me know, you know? If you like what you see and what content I'm making, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. That would be all. Thank you for watching and have a great day.